Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, we aim to be your shortcut to getting properly informed without you having to wade through, well, everything. Today, we're taking a closer look at a specific NPR report. It's titled Iran's Shadow Reach Attacks on U.S. Bases. And this isn't really about the big flashy headlines. It's more about those subtle actions, the ones happening just under the radar but having, a real impact.
Exactly. Our goal here is to unpack what that term shadow reach actually implies when we talk about these reported attacks on U.S. bases and why this kind of indirect approach is so significant, why it matters.
Right. The report mentions key places, specifically U.S. bases in Iraq and Qatar. So the big question for us today is, what do these reports really tell us about how these attacks are happening and who or what is being targeted?
Well, a shadow reach, it's it points to a very calculated strategy.
Yeah.
We see actions that are attributed to Iran often, but they're carried out maybe by proxy groups or, in ways that give Iran plausible deniability. It's not about direct state-on-state fighting. It's more about exerting pressure, extending influence, but crucially, without crossing a line that might provoke a massive conventional military response.
Ah, okay. So it's like a strategic way to, pursue goals while trying to keep things from escalating into a full-blown war.
Precisely. A way to operate in that gray zone.
And the NPR report, it specifically flags U.S. installations in Iraq and Qatar. These aren't just random spots on a map, are they?
No, definitely not. They're critical hubs for the U.S. presence in the region. Attacking them, even indirectly, sends a message. And what's really interesting about this shadow reach idea is the asymmetric advantage it provides. Think of it maybe like leaving fingerprints, but not a full confession. Enough to suggest involvement, but making it really hard to definitively prove it and retaliate directly.
That makes sense.
It keeps the U.S. sort of guessing, maybe off balance, in a situation where the normal rules of engagement don't quite fit.
Fascinating. So it's not just what they're doing, but how they're doing it, making a response complicated as part of the strategy itself. Does the report give any hints about why Iraq and Qatar are such consistent focus points for this kind of shadow activity?
Well, it really highlights their strategic value to the U.S. military setup there. Hitting these places, even with these deniable attacks, shows capability. It shows intent. It's a way for Iran to challenge U.S. influence without risking, say, a direct strike on Iranian soil.
Right.
It's about applying pressure very deliberately, maybe chipping away at stability, forcing the U.S. to rethink its position, rather than aiming for some big battlefield win. This pattern, the sustained indirect stuff, it paints a very different picture than just isolated incidents.
Yeah, that really does add layers to how you think about power struggles, doesn't it? But does this shadow strategy actually make things safer by avoiding direct war? Or does it maybe create a different kind of danger, something more insidious and harder to manage?
That's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? It forces us all to look beyond just tanks and planes. I mean, sure, it might sidestep immediate, large-scale conflict, but it also fosters this constant low-level tension, uncertainty. And that can be pretty destabilizing in its own way long term. So for you listening, the main thing to pull from this NPR report is this. It shows a pattern. Attacks linked back to Iran, hitting key U.S. spots in Iraq and Qatar. And a key feature, that indirect shadow method, designed for deniability. Understanding that specific way of operating is really important.
Absolutely. And knowing about these kinds of nuanced shadow actions helps you build a much richer understanding of what's happening in the region, much more than you'd get just from, say, skimming the headlines. It helps you see the depper strategy at play, the chess game behind the individual moves. So let's leave you with this thought to chew on. How might knowing about these shadow tactics change the way we think about traditional warfare, or even what conflict means today? What new questions does this raise for you about how power works on the global stage?